When I was a kid, my mom bought this DVD called The Secret. I remember sitting in front of the TV with her and watching this movie. Except it wasn't really a movie. It didn't have characters per se. But I do remember a guy talking about using your mind to attract good into your life. And it wasn't the movie that really weirded me out, but the after effects. You see, she made Dad watch this movie, and I vaguely remember them discussing manifesting money into their lives. Now, with my dad being in the Navy, he was a bit more skeptical, but he did want to be supportive. So, the plan was to think really, really hard about money, and by the end of the year, their financial problems would be solved. Now, granted, my parents could probably give this story more justice, but I'm just telling you what I remember. I don't know how hard they thought, or if they practiced daily mantras like they were supposed to. But did it work? Did my family suddenly get rich? No. And their money problems persisted the next year. Instead of getting rich, my parents kind of blamed each other for not wanting it bad enough. And I can still remember the look on my mom's face when their financial problems weren't solved. It's almost as if everything from that point on, she kind of blamed herself for. Now, I'm not saying that this movie ruined her life or anything of the sort, but it did have a profound impact. And unsurprisingly, the core idea that manifesting or attracting things into your life is the ultimate secret to a life of happiness and prosperity still persists today. So I want to break down this question and ask, is there any merit to this secret? Or is it just another scam that makes people feel guilty when their lives don't turn out the way they want? So first, let's try to give this theory the best chance at success. What does the movie actually claim? Well, The Secret argues that the law of attraction is the fundamental force governing reality. Your thoughts emit some frequencies that essentially magnetically attract matching circumstances into your life, meaning you literally create your reality through thinking. The book presents the universe as a genie or catalog where you simply order what you want and wait for the delivery, emphasizing that you shouldn't have to worry about things that will happen. Just believe they will. But any doubt weakens your manifestation, making the theory conveniently unfalsifiable, since failure is always the result of insufficient belief. And most controversially, it claims you are completely responsible for everything that happens to you, even arguing that victims of mass tragedies had to be on the same frequency as the event. Now, throughout, the author Byrne capitalizes that you in order to emphasize that humans, not God or nature, are the theological center of the universe, with individual thoughts serving as the primary creative force that shapes all of existence. And while the majority of philosophers do not support this idea, there are some that support certain core elements that The Secret distorts. For example, philosopher William James, a pragmatist from the late 1800s, argued that it was possible to believe something without complete evidence, like The Secret wants you to believe. But he specified that it only was in very specific and limited circumstances. In his 1896 essay, The Will to Believe, James argued that we face a genuine option, and we have a few of them. A choice that is living, that both alternatives are real possibilities. Forced, meaning you must choose, and that inaction itself is a choice, and momentous, meaning the choice has significant consequences. And when the intellectual evidence is genuinely insufficient, then our emotions and our will can legitimately tip the scales toward belief. His classic example was that of faith. You can't verify God exists before you believe he does, but belief itself might be necessary to experience a relationship with the divine. And if you choose not to believe, that in and of itself is a choice. But James wasn't giving blanket permission to believe whatever you want in defiance of evidence. He was talking about beliefs that might enable certain experiences, where the belief itself is a necessary condition for the outcome. And this is radically different from claiming that thinking about money will magically cause your financial problems to disappear. The Secret fundamentally misunderstands this distinction. James would have recognized that financial success actually requires action, like networking, skill development, strategic decisions, and hard work. No amount of positive thinking about money will manifest a paycheck if you don't show up to work. The belief might help because confidence can improve job performance, but the belief only enables the action. It doesn't replace it. Moreover, James explicitly limited his argument to situations where evidence is genuinely insufficient. But we have overwhelming evidence about how wealth is created through labor, investment, innovation, inheritance, and yes, sometimes luck and systematic advantages. But we don't need to invoke magical frequencies when we have economics, sociology, and history to explain financial outcomes. The ancient Stoics, particularly Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, would have found the Secret's claims not just wrong, but dangerous. The Stoics built their entire philosophy around a fundamental distinction, that some things are in our control and some things are not. In his handbook, Epictetus opens with this stark declaration. Some things are up to us, and some are not up to us. Our opinions are up to us, and our impulses, desires, aversions. In short, whatever is our own doing. Our bodies are not up to us, nor are our possessions, our reputations, or our public offices, or, that is, whatever is not our own doing. Essentially, we control our thoughts, our character, our effort, and our responses to events. But we don't control outcomes or other people's actions, and we definitely don't control the economy or natural disasters. The Stoics would say that my mom could control her work ethic, financial decisions, and her attitude towards money. But she couldn't simply think money into existence. Nobody can. External outcomes depend on far more than our internal states. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his Meditations, constantly reminded himself of this principle. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The strength comes from understanding and accepting what you actually control and focusing your energy there. The Secret actually inverts this wisdom. It claims you control everything through thought, when in reality, that makes you powerless. If success depends solely on thinking correctly, then failure means you didn't think correctly. But you can never be sure that you're thinking correctly because doubt itself undermines the process. It is a psychological trap. The Stoic approach is to focus on your character and your actions, accept that outcomes are partially beyond your control, and find peace in doing your best regardless of the results. Accept that not every negative thing in your life is a result of just your actions. And it's not to say that you should have a victimhood mentality or anything of the sort. But this does bring us to the most morally troubling aspect of The Secret: its treatment of victims. If your thoughts create your reality, then everyone who suffers brought it on themselves. Rhonda Byrne, the author, doesn't shy away from this implication. When addressing mass tragedies, she writes, "By the law of attraction, they had to be on the same frequency as the event." So let's sit with what that means. The children and everybody who died in the Chernobyl nuclear disaster were on the same frequency as radiation poisoning. Victims of natural disasters, terminal illness, violent crimes, all of them, according to Burns, attracted these events through their thoughts. Even infants and young children who barely have formed thoughts are somehow responsible for their own suffering. And this is philosophically absurd and honestly morally repugnant. It transforms compassion into judgment and suffering into deserved punishment. If someone is struggling with cancer, The Secret implies that they should really examine their thoughts, think more positively in order to get better. If a community is devastated by a hurricane, then they collectively manifested it through their negative thinking. This worldview eliminates the entire category of victim. It replaces solidarity with blame and support with suspicion. Why help the poor if their poverty is self-inflicted? And why advocate for justice if injustice is just a frequency that people are choosing? The logical endpoint of The Secret is a profound moral callousness, dressed up as empowerment. Compare this to virtually any serious ethical system. Even religious traditions speak of grace, undeserved suffering, and the importance of helping those in need. And secular ethics recognizes that people face obstacles through no fault of their own. Genetic predispositions, abusive childhoods, systematic discrimination, economic recessions, and just random accidents. Even philosophies that emphasize personal responsibility, like existentialism, recognize that we are thrown into circumstances that we don't always choose. And this is where The Secret reveals itself as pseudoscience. It's constructed so that it cannot be proven wrong. In science, that is called an unfalsifiable claim. And Karl Popper identified it as a key marker of non-scientific claims. A scientific theory must make predictions that could, in principle, be proven false. If I claim that all swans are white, finding a single black swan disproves my theory in its entirety. But The Secret has a built-in escape hatch. If your manifestation fails, it's probably your fault, even if you doubted it subconsciously, even in ways that you're not aware of. So the moment you ask, why didn't this work, you provide evidence of doubt. Your question is then used to explain your failure. It's a self-sealing system. There's no possible evidence that could show the law of attraction doesn't work, because any failure is interpreted as improper application. So it places all responsibility for the theory's failure on the practitioner, but never on the theory itself. Now, we can study whether positive thinking improves outcomes, and psychologists have. The result is that positive thinking can improve mood and motivation, which can lead to better performance on tasks. But this works through concrete mechanisms. Motivation leads to more effort, better mood improves cognitive function, not through mystical attraction. And crucially, positive thinking alone, without action, accomplishes absolutely nothing. The Secret demands that you never question, never doubt, and never critically examine whether it's working. Every philosophical tradition worth its salt encourages questioning and self-examination, while The Secret demands blind faith and claims to offer a law as reliable as gravity. And what bothers me most about The Secret is it severs the connection between thought and action. Actions matter only insofar as they reflect thoughts. The thought is primary, and the action is supposed to be secondary. But this is backwards. In reality, thought and action form a kind of feedback loop. Belief can motivate action, but actions also shape beliefs. I believe I can improve my writing, so I practice. And that practice builds genuine skill, which reinforces my belief. The belief alone didn't accomplish anything. I could believe that I'm a great writer all day, but without putting words on paper, I'll never improve. Consider what actually would have helped a financial situation. Practical actions, like identifying unnecessary expenses, seeking additional income, and perhaps taking some courses to improve job prospects. These actions are often difficult and unglamorous, though. They require effort, sometimes over years. They involve facing uncomfortable truths about spending habits or earning potential. And The Secret offers an appealing shortcut. Just skip the hard work and think correctly. And this is why The Secret failed so many people. Everybody was told to focus on thinking about money, to visualize abundance, and to eliminate doubt. But unless those thoughts translated into concrete financial strategies, and the movie explicitly tells you not to worry about how things will happen, well, they were just thoughts. Mental activity that changed nothing in the external world. Sometimes you do everything right and still face setbacks. Because economic systems and all systems are complex. Life is random. Because other people have agency just as much as you. And I'll leave you with this. The universe is not a genie, and you are not God. But you are a capable human with genuine agency over your choices and actions. And that's more modest than what The Secret promises, but it's also more honest. And in the end, truth, even the difficult truth, serves us better than comforting lies. So, with that said, if you guys have any thoughts about this or any other topics that you'd like me to talk about, be sure to leave them in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all next time.